Hello everyone and welcome once again to another live episode from the Health Pro Tips channel. We titled this video as 100 Days Later because we wanted to discover what had changed since our last posting back in February this year. And my goodness, how it has all evolved. In this video, we continue our commitment to you to provide the latest information on COVID-19. As always, we are committed to your success and to your health. Hey listen, if this is your first time here and you want to learn about health tips, please start now by subscribing below and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. And real quick, if you have any tips that you yourself have, please be sure to leave them down in the comments below to help other people that might watch this video. So as we all know, this world event has been unprecedented. It is shaping our lives. It has changed our lives, the way we live, the way we work, shop, play, travel. It has changed our industries, our professions, and the way we understand this world. Well, COVID-19 has created unprecedented challenges and increased risk not only to public health, but also to our own lives, our businesses, and everything that our lives revolve around. The World Health Organization continues to maintain the global risk index very high due to this global pandemic. This all comes about as countries the world over are scrambling to treat their patients and find a cure while responding to the thousands of cases being reported. Almost every country in the world is now affected. Major cities have been devastated, and migratory and touristy cities and countries like New York City and others have been the worst affected. As of today, there are only a handful of countries with no impact. So we wanted to do a little recap. What is the coronavirus? The coronavirus is also known as the 2019 novel coronavirus, or nCoV, or COVID-19 as it's now known. Coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that include the Middle East respiratory syndrome, or MERS, that originated in Saudi Arabia in the Middle East, or the coronavirus that causes severe acute respiratory syndrome, also known as SARS. When SARS totally went away after 8,000 cases and about 800 deaths, the MERS virus is still out there. Hence, we all need to be knowledgeable and informed about these deadly strains of viruses. Initial studies showed that the coronavirus was transferred from bats to humans. This is certainly a new type of coronavirus which has never been seen before in humans. So we take a look at the background of the coronavirus. June Almeida, who was a research scientist, discovered coronaviruses decades ago in 1964, but back then she got very little recognition. When seen under a microscope, the visual demonstrated round gray dots that were surrounded by spokes, much like the corona of the sun, and hence the name coronavirus. So what are the symptoms of these coronaviruses? Usually a coronavirus is a respiratory virus and can often be caused using human illness ranging from common cold to severe pneumonia. Unlike what we may know back in January and February, the coronavirus symptoms today are much more well known. Patient-reported symptoms include cough, fever, shortness of breath, headaches, muscle pain, sore throat, severe headaches, chills, and the loss of taste and smell that has emerged as a very strong indication of infection. But fever, cough, and shortness of breath, these were identified very early on as common symptoms. Now there are newer symptoms that are coming up that medical staff and scientists and researchers have found. Researchers have developed a more nuanced picture of how symptoms of infection can manifest themselves, especially in milder cases. They're seeing symptoms like confusion in a patient, gastrointestinal issues, and more recently they've seen what they term as COVID toes. These are reddish lesions on the toes and sometimes on the hands of the patients, and they cause a very burning, itching, or tender swelling sensations. Now listen, like other illnesses like measles or chickenpox often cause rashes, so dermatologists were expecting that with the coronavirus. But COVID toes are certainly something new, and data is still emerging on these effects. So how do you prevent getting COVID-19? Well, the important ways to prevent getting COVID-19 is recommended by the CDC to travelers avoiding all non-essential travel. Other important ways are to wear masks, preferably an N95 grade mask if they are available, perform social distancing, and quarantining, right? Work from home, stay home as much as possible. Make sure you wash your hands, cleaning and disinfecting your home, common areas, clothing, and so on and so forth. When we look at how the coronavirus had impacted, back in January 2020, parts of the world were affected, and we'd seen, according to this map from the Center for Disease Control in January, that several countries, including the center of China, Wuhan, which was the epicenter then, including Korea, Germany, USA, and a few others like Australia, Singapore, UK, Italy, Japan, etc. But now we see almost 4 months later, about 100 days later, we see parts of the world are affected, and you see the whole world is impacted, right? There are very few countries now that may not have impact on the coronavirus itself. When we look at past figures in the months of February through April on COVID-19, we see the coronavirus cases were about 76,000 plus in February, and then rose another 10,000 in March. But the jump from March to April was humongous. It went from 84,000 to about 2.7 million cases reported, including the deaths that were in February were 2,200, rose to a few hundred more, but then in April it went up to 195,000. We then take a look 100 days later, now from February through May, and here you see the biggest difference. In February we had 76,000 coronavirus cases reported, and in May of this year we have 4.7 million cases reported worldwide. The deaths too have increased from 2,250 to almost 312,000 deaths reported. Fortunately, the good news is there's also been some massive recoveries in patients, as we see below. Additional statistics also show how the total cases and the total deaths have increased. We see in January, which was the lowest point, and I think that's when we started calculating, up to February, was rising up very small. But then we look at the May numbers on the right, in the two boxes on the right, and we see how that steep incline from middle of March 13th, all the way through middle of May has gone from a few 100,000 to close to 5 million. And the same thing for the deaths as well. Staggering numbers. Here are some very good visuals, pandemic visuals, and if we look at the bottom right of this visual, we see back in 2002 the SARS virus had killed about 770 people, and then a few years later, a decade later, we had the MERS virus, which killed about 850 people, and then more recently in 2014 and 2016 we had the Ebola virus, which had about 11.3 thousand casualties. There's also the comparative numbers of the yellow fever in the late 1800s, which was a much larger number, 100 to 150,000, and then the swine flu in 2009 and 2010. But then we have the ongoing coronavirus or COVID-19 now, which is at 304,000 approximately by May 15th, a study done by Johns Hopkins University. You can compare the COVID-19 with some of the other illnesses through the ages, and you can see right up top here on the top left you have the 200 million deaths reported due to the Black Death or the bubonic plague, and there were other smallpox related, HIV, AIDS related illnesses and so on. Again, very staggering numbers. So here are some worldwide statistics in the last 100 days. We see numbers on confirmed cases on the left in the blue, and those numbers of confirmed cases have risen quite a lot, almost 100,000 a day being reported worldwide, when we're up to 4.5 million accounts reported in the last 100 days. And on the right you see the reported deaths worldwide, and those are pretty staggering numbers as well. We then go back all the way to China, where the city of Wuhan, where it was first reported. The original epicenter of Wuhan is finally returning back to normal. Well, not really back to normal, or is it? China had relaxed its lockdown back in April 8th, but then it started renewing the lockdown in May due to a second wave of infections in two other cities. Here we see a visual of what a factory cafeteria in China looks like. They have partitioned off areas and they have instructions to not chat, to finish their food quickly, and to wash hands. Very interesting how the new normal looks like. You look at some of the statistics in the USA, where we see which has become the new epicenter, and what with all the reported cases here, the numbers are pretty amazing, very scary. And there is a fantastic visual from the Center for Disease Control showing contrasting numbers within different states in the USA. So as you can see, the numbers in the south for Texas and Florida, as well as in the west coast for California, and then all the way up in the northeast for New York City have the darkest shade, and those are the 40,000 or more reported cases as of May 13, 2020. Pretty staggering numbers again. There's also some recent updates from other countries, and how are these other countries doing? Well, recent global updates show Russia recording its highest daily death toll. Saudi Arabia passes a staggering 50,000 cases. Italy, on the other hand, approves plan to lift travel restrictions in a few weeks from now. Cambodia says all COVID-19 patients have recovered, so there's always some positives coming out of this. And there's other news of new testing going on which will trigger new infections in Wuhan. There's also reports from Brazil and Kenya of similar cases. So how does all this change our lives? How is it affecting our lives? Worldwide, people are dealing with business disruptions across the board. Unplanned events such as COVID-19 and travel restrictions make it very difficult to continue business as usual. Many companies across the globe are enabling employees to work remotely, maintain productivity, and provide for continued access to systems that support their lives, their clients, and their businesses. There's major lockdowns in almost every country. Cities are closed due to lockdowns, people working from home or remotely. Essential healthcare and first responders obviously are still going to work. Social distancing is in play. Gathering and community-based faith events have been cancelled. Restricted travel worldwide. Schools have been closed globally. Conferences and summits have been cancelled worldwide. And in-person meetings have now been converted to virtual wherever possible. What else is happening in our lives? So as you can see, for every wrong there is right, and for every darkness there is light, and for every weakness there is a fight. And all this has happened so quickly and so suddenly. Social distancing in our lives and economy has frozen in time. Jobs have been lost, people have gotten furloughed, businesses have shut down, restaurants have closed, large factories have closed as well. But for every negative impact of the coronavirus, there's also some positive effects or impacts. Innovation and creativity has been on the rise. People have been able to adapt to the new normal, whatever that is, and people are using computing technologies more easily, and they're doing their best by social distancing to flatten the curve itself. There's been a dramatic and sudden shift in the way we learn, work, and live. A large part of our lives these days are limited to interactions through online platforms, from grocery shopping to dating to business meetings. Education itself has been vastly impacted. If you look at classrooms and educational institutions, teachers have had to reinvent teaching methods. With complete lockdown, teaching requires now full digital access to classes. Parents and teachers and students are all learning online together. Internet and application service providers ramping up to handle the new online traffic. Even top colleges and universities which were against online learning are now adopting this new medium. So here are some other interesting facts that you would like to know. Did you know that with most people staying indoors, with lesser public transportation and cars on the road, the world population levels have certainly dropped a lot, and that results in drastically clean air. People in India can now see the Himalayas for the first time in decades as the lockdown eases. It's a perfect example of easing air pollution. You can see the Himalayas, they're right behind a view from New Delhi that's being displayed. So how do we handle our daily lives? What do we do? Well, we stay home unless absolutely necessary. We start practicing clean habits, warm showers daily, wash hands regularly, practice general hygiene. We do grocery shopping maybe weekly instead of daily, and we make sure we don't hoard. Make use of hand sanitizers, well, if they are even available today. But more importantly, stay away from cruise ships. Cruise ships are breeding grounds of illnesses due to those close proximity for large periods of time. Telehealth, if you have scheduled doctor appointments, don't miss them. Depending on where in the world you live, you may have options for telehealth, where you can schedule a virtual doctor's visit. Also, going to the movies have always been a favorite pastime for people worldwide. But with most theaters closed down, folks are resorting to watching streaming content. There are a lot of free and paid content for young and old, so that should be a healthy option. But whatever you end up doing to pass your time, make sure to be active and be social, from a distance of course. Covid-19 is highly contagious, but we don't know who has it until it's too late. Some don't even show the symptoms at all. Others get seriously ill, but not until after they've been carrying it for 2 weeks or so, and it is too late. The safest thing you can do is to limit your chances of exposure. Here's how Tom Wolf, the governor of Pennsylvania in the United States, advises via a simple table showing some do's and don'ts. So for example, you would have virtual chats instead of in-person visits. You would try and exercise in a quiet area or socially distant area, as opposed to exercising in a busy park. You may choose to take out or have food delivered instead of dining in a crowded restaurant. You may try to get weekly groceries instead of daily groceries. Make sure you always wear a mask in public, as opposed to without going with the mask on. Teleworking as opposed to getting your colleagues sick by working all together. It's amazing how these little things we do can go a long way. And another important thing we have to learn to do is how to handle stress. You have to make sure that you take care of yourself and make sure it's not difficult. Make it a priority. Ensure you get regular sleep, work-life balance, take regular breaks from work, from those monotonous chores that you have. Make sure you exercise regularly. Call a friend, a family member, especially those who might need help at this time. Have a heartfelt conversation that you may not have had for a long time. Hey, maybe even do that one project that you've always wanted to do but had never had time for. Stay connected with your passions. That's the most important thing, because that is what will make a magical difference to your life. There are creative ways of staying healthy. Creative things that folks are doing from home to work out are some of these examples that I'd like to talk about here, just to show you what things are possible. Here's what some prominent swimmers did. There was a very famous swimmer, a Russian swimmer, Yulia Efimova. What she did was, if you Google her name, you'll see that there's videos about her where she does air swimming on the kitchen countertop along with her abs of steel. Also, swimmer Emily Kretz created an inflatable pool in her garage. Triathlete Yasmin Rieger used some resistant bands and a bench to practice her strokes. Now, you can do it in your own little way. You don't have to follow as these prominent swimmers do, but you can try your own options to be creative and stay healthy. So, what's next? Well, looking ahead, we know that different parts of the world, different parts of the economy will and are reopening at different times. Lives may not go back to normal. They will get back to whatever the new normal is. And under most cases, that'll be until a successful vaccine and treatment is released for COVID-19. And this will run its course through all the government approvals and procedures and processes and bureaucracy, etc., etc. Until then, I encourage you to make sure you stay healthy, stay learning, and stay inspired so that you can keep your brain active, your body active and healthy, and live through these difficult times and come up on top. When everything is back to normal, or the new normal, we shall all have great moments together again. So make sure you're always maintaining that 6 feet of social distance. And finally, given the current COVID-19 pandemic, we have to learn to bond in crisis and create history together. Needless to say, everything is in flux at the moment and many rules are subject to change. How soon, we don't know yet. So feel free to send us your feedback. What are you seeing around you? How are residents, citizens, and business owners around you responding? How are they feeling? Also tell us your own story. How are you adjusting to the pandemic? What is your biggest fear? Have you fought anyone over that last bag of toilet paper at your grocery store? Have your travel plans been interrupted? How do you feel your local officials have responded? Do you know anyone with symptoms of the virus? Are you even worried at all? What are your feelings? Feel free to leave comments below and tell us your stories, which we know will be more information about human relatable, and we would be happy to hear from you. And finally, that brings us to the end of our presentation. If you've enjoyed this video and are looking forward to new content and have not yet subscribed, go ahead and slam that red subscribe button below and take that bell icon to be notified of all future videos that we upload. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up showing you are excited for the content and looking forward to it, and we really appreciate it. Finally, please take care, and as always, be aware, be safe, and be healthy. Thank you once again from all of us at the Health Pro Tips channel. Thank you. Bye-bye.